Chapter 2. What is RWD anyway? Responsive web design is made up of a few core tenets, which we'll get into in just a moment. We're going to take a look at its impact on content design and development, its relationship with accessibility and other kinds of devices, and performance. One of the things that's emerged in the last few years is that performance is really one of the most important design considerations when you're working on a site, because it really only works well and is appreciated if it actually shows up. So way back when, in the early depths of, I think, May of 2010, a fellow named Ethan Marcotte wrote an article on A List Apart about responsive web design and followed it up not long after with this book. And he laid out the basic core tenets that really are the foundation of any responsive design. Fluid grids, meaning that they don't have a fixed pixel width, but they scale. Flexible images that will scale with that fluid grid. And media queries, which allow us to change that layout and how the website looks and behaves based on the size of the screen and the capabilities of the device upon which the site's being viewed. And it really was a sea change in web design, at least certainly was for me and many others. It really completely upended everything about how we made websites and how we thought about the web, and has been a complete revolution ever since. So again, coming back to these same screens we looked at before, bear in mind it's one set of code that's rendering the page a little bit differently on each one of these different devices. We've got desktop, phone, and tablet, and you'll notice that a few things change about how the layout scales and moves, and then also about how it behaves. You'll notice that there's a totally different menu there on the right for the phone. So a few things that have pushed us in this direction is the prevalence of smartphones and how much they've grown in capability and use, the amount of time people are spending on their phones, and the number of users who are simply going to leave if it takes any great amount of time for that website to show up. So on this website for Science in the Classroom, we have a desktop interface on the left that moves and scales and adapts to work better on the phone to be more appropriate for the size of the screen and the way people interact with it. So everything there is touch enabled and also keeps things in place for while you're browsing on the phone, but doesn't get in the way of taking in the content. Another thing that came along just a year or two ago was this notion of Google Mobilegeddon. One of the things that we know that our lives are ruled by as web designers and developers is how our websites are viewed and ranked in Google. And when Google a couple of years ago decided that they were going to start changing the way websites ranked based on how well they performed both in speed but also in optimization for small screens, that was really the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of acceptance of responsive design as the norm and not the exception. And just as further proof, there are also plenty of research studies that show that, like this statistic from Google themselves, 61% of users are unlikely to return to a mobile site if they had trouble accessing it, and 40% are going directly to a competitor's site instead. If that's not a compelling enough statistic for you, your boss, or your client, I'm really not sure what else is. So we have a little bit of an understanding about responsive web design. We've talked about its impact. We see some of the connections between responsive web design, accessibility, and other devices. So let's move on.